The clock was ticking, and every second brought them closer to exposure or extinction. With corporate mercenaries hunting them, secrets worth millions on the line, and betrayal lurking in every shadow, Rachel knew this final mission could cost her everything. But if she failed, the world would pay a far higher price. The first crack didn't come with shouting or tears, it came in silence. It was a late Tuesday afternoon. The deceptively peaceful kind. The golden hue of the sun slanting across the kitchen tiles, the distant hum of a lawnmower down the street, the soft clink of a spoon against the rim of a teacup. I was at the dining table, sifting through a stack of envelopes and digital statements, checking over Alyssa's college fund. She had dreams of going to NYU, maybe even Columbia, and we had agreed to stay ahead of the curve financially. I'd always been the practical one, organized, cautious, trusting, but with limits. That afternoon, as I scanned the spreadsheet Tony had helped me structure years ago, something unusual blinked at me. A single transaction, a large deposit, stood out. Too large. And then came the red flags. A string of wire transfers to names that meant nothing to me. Foreign names, LLCs that didn't appear legitimate on any public registry I could access. It was like opening a closet and having a skeleton fall out. I rubbed my temples and told myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe Paul was moving some funds for tax purposes. He was meticulous with money, particularly when it came to Alyssa. But something gnawed at the edge of my mind. A whisper I couldn't shake off. A feeling that truth was clawing its way through a wall of deception. "Hey," Paul's voice startled me. He walked in holding 2 mugs of coffee, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. His presence was both familiar and foreign in that moment, like a song you used to love but now can't listen to without feeling sick. "You've been staring at that screen forever," he said, placing a mug beside me. "Everything okay?" I looked up, forcing a smile I didn't believe. "Just reviewing some account statements." He leaned over and kissed the top of my head. I didn't flinch, but I didn't lean into it either. His cologne, woodsy and warm, used to comfort me. Now it made my skin crawl. "Let me know if you need help," he offered, casually sipping his coffee. I nodded. "Sure." But my mind screamed one word over and over. Liar. That night, while Paul was asleep in the bedroom we no longer shared in spirit, I paced the living room barefoot, clutching my phone. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through my contacts. I hesitated at Tony's name. Tony Greer wasn't just an old friend. He was a private investigator with a military background and a reputation for getting answers, no matter how dangerous. The trail. We hadn't spoken since his wife passed away 5 years ago. Back then he was broken. We both were in different ways. But if there was anyone I could trust to pull the threads on this without alerting Paul, it was Tony. I hit call. 3 rings. "Sab?" His voice was groggy but alert, his name for me soft and full of past connection. "I think Paul's hiding something," I said, barely above a whisper. "And not just an affair." There was a pause. "Tell me everything." Over the next week, I played the role of dutiful wife with Oscar-worthy precision. I packed lunches, signed school forms, and hosted the book club I hated, all while Tony dug into the depths of our digital life. Then, one afternoon, Tony's voice on the line was like a hammer through glass. "He's been spying on you, Sab." "What do you mean?" "Spyware. Deep-level stuff. Someone installed monitoring software on your laptop, your phone, the iPad, even Alyssa's school tablet. The air left my lungs. You're saying he's been watching us?" "I can't say it was him directly," Tony replied. "But the pattern points back to your home network. Everything's being routed through a backdoor server in New Jersey. And that account, the one with the weird transactions, that's the shell Paul's using to pay off someone, either a handler or a contractor." My legs gave out and I slid to the floor, the phone pressed to my ear like a lifeline. "I'm scared, Tony. This isn't just cheating or gambling. This is control, surveillance. I feel like I'm in a cage I didn't know I was trapped in." He didn't speak for a long moment. Then, "Sabine, this is bigger than a messy marriage. He's building something." or hiding something, and you're in the middle of it. I confronted Paul 2 nights later. It was pouring outside, thunder cracking, like an omen. Alyssa was at a friend's house for a group project, thankfully. I waited until he was nursing his second whiskey, half watching the news. "Why is there spyware on Alyssa's tablet?" I asked flatly, standing in the doorway like a ghost. He turned slowly. The glass in his hand trembled just enough for me to notice. "What are you talking about?" "I had the devices scanned, every one of them. Someone's been monitoring us. You want to tell me who?" His expression didn't falter, didn't twitch. But I saw it, the flicker in his eyes. "You don't understand," he said. "It's more complicated than you think." "No," I snapped. "It's exactly as complicated as betrayal gets." "You're making assumptions," he said coldly. "No, I'm reading logs, seeing names, traces, offshore accounts. This isn't just some midlife crisis, Paul. This is methodical, criminal." He stood up, jaw clenched. "You've been snooping, invading my privacy." "Your privacy?" I laughed bitterly. "You installed surveillance software on your child's tablet. You don't get to talk about privacy." His silence was a confession, a dangerous one. The next morning, it got worse. A text. No name, no contact info. Just a photo. Alyssa, walking home from school. No caption. No demand. Just the image, and an undeniable threat. My vision blurred. My limbs froze. For a full minute, I couldn't even scream. Then came the shaking. The phone slipped from my hand. I gasped, clutched the edge of the counter to stay upright. Paul wasn't just spying. He was involved in something far darker. Alyssa's fund, the shell corporations, the spyware, the shadowy photo. It was a system, a machine, a network of something I didn't yet understand. I called Tony. He arrived within the hour, his car parked 2 blocks down to avoid suspicion. He brought 2 burner phones, a Wi-Fi scrambler, and a face that had seen too much. "We need a plan," he said after listening to everything. "This isn't domestic anymore. This is criminal conspiracy territory." He placed a laptop on the table and pulled up files, documents, bank routes, and network maps. I felt like I was falling down a rabbit hole with no bottom. And then Alyssa came into the room. She had that same defiant glint in her eye that I remembered from when she was 4, and insisted on reading the Gruffalo herself. That night, she stood at the edge of the living room, fists clenched, eyes wide and sharp. "I want to help," she said. "No," I said instantly. "Not. You're a child. This is not your fight." "They're already threatening me," she said, voice trembling. "I'm not just going to sit here and let them win." Tony looked at her, then at me. "She's brave," he said finally. "Smart too. If we teach her just enough, she might be able to help us slip under the radar." "No way," I said. "This isn't a spy movie. She's 13. "Exactly," Tony replied. "No one's watching her, and that might be our only advantage." That night, I lay awake, with Alyssa in my arms. Her breathing was slow, but I could tell she wasn't asleep. Neither was I. The rain had stopped, but the storm inside our home was just beginning. Everything I thought I knew about my husband, my marriage, my life, it was all unraveling. The man who once whispered vows into my ear under candlelight was now a stranger, a threat, a key to a door I hadn't yet opened, but I would. I had to. Because this wasn't just about lies anymore. It was about survival. It was about my daughter. And now it was about vengeance. The moment the gunshot rang out, everything slowed. It was as if the world inhaled sharply and forgot to exhale. The scream that followed, raw, primal, unmistakably Evelyn's, cut through the crisp autumn air. Birds scattered from the trees above, startled by the violence. The security team, positioned at strategic corners of the university courtyard, surged into action, weapons drawn, communication devices buzzing. Professor Rachel Palmer remained, frozen, her eyes wide, her body rigid, locked in that single horrible second when her mentor and friend, Dr. Lewis Hargrave, collapsed on the cold granite steps of the chemistry building. Blood spread beneath him, dark and glistening. Students screamed and scrambled for cover. "No!" Rachel gasped, her legs finally unlocking as she ran toward him. "Lewis!" Hargrave's eyes blinked rapidly, his lips trembling. Rachel dropped beside him, pressing her hands against the wound, in his chest, feeling the warmth of the blood seep through her fingers. "Stay with me. Just stay with me, please," she whispered. "I knew it would come to this," Hargrave rasped, coughing. Rachel's heart stuttered. "What? What are you talking about?" But his body went limp. "Paramedics are on their way," shouted a campus security officer, pulling Rachel back. "We need to clear the area. Ma'am, please." Rachel stood shakily, eyes glazed, her hands stained crimson. Evelyn, tear-streaked and shaking, stood nearby, still clutching her presentation. Notes, the paper trembled violently in her hands. Detective Inspector Marcus Hale was a large man, with a face made for interrogation, angular, authoritative, but oddly comforting when he wanted it to be. He sat across from Rachel in a small windowless room, a cheap recorder blinking red between them. "Dr. Palmer," he began, his voice neutral. "You understand why you're here," Rachel nodded numbly. "You think I know something. I think you're a scientist who just lost a close friend and colleague. That makes you both a witness and a potential target." She folded her arms tightly, not to appear guarded, but simply to hold herself together. "Dr. Hargrave received multiple threats over the past year," Hale continued, flipping open a manila file. "Emails, calls, even a break-in at his lab last March. Did he ever mention any of this to you?" Rachel blinked. "He said something about concerns over a project, but he was vague. I thought it was academic politics, not this." Hale watched her carefully. "What project?" "Environmental cleanup using advanced chelation compounds. He believed he'd synthesized something that could revolutionize heavy metal extraction from contaminated groundwater." "And was this research controversial?" Rachel hesitated. "Yes. It involved funding from multiple sources, some of them with vested industrial interests. I warned him that getting too close to the truth could be dangerous." "Who were the funders?" "Mosaic Fertilizers, and 3 offshore shell companies that couldn't be traced directly." Hale raised an eyebrow. "Mosaic? As in your father's company?" She looked away. "I had no control over that. Hargrave told me after he'd secured the grant. By then, the research was too far along." "Did your father know you were involved?" "I don't know. We haven't spoken since the gala." A man with silver-streaked hair and sharp Italian tailoring adjusted his cufflinks as he watched the breaking news footage on a large screen. Hargrave's assassination was being broadcast worldwide, the grainy footage from a student's phone looping endlessly. "So it begins," he murmured. Another figure stepped from the shadows, a woman, with severe cheekbones and a colder gaze. "We had no choice. He was going to leak the formula. The investor in Dubai wanted results. Our margin for delay was gone." "Still," the man said, turning slowly, "now we have a bigger problem. Rachel Palmer. She was working too closely with him. If she gets curious, we'll monitor her, let the pressure mount. If she breaks, she'll lead us straight to the rest of Hargrave's files. And if she doesn't?" The woman smiled. "Everyone has a pressure point, even Palmer," Rachel returned to her lab, though it no longer felt like hers. The air smelled stale, the equipment lifeless. Evelyn sat at the workstation, scanning research logs. "I found something," she said quietly. Rachel stepped closer. "Look at this. Hargrave's final simulation logs. The results weren't just promising, they were flawless. He cracked it." Rachel stared at the screen. The chelation rate was nearly 99.7%, an impossible figure. "That's Nobel-level work, and a threat to every company relying on slow, inefficient remediation methods," Evelyn added. Rachel's mind spun. If Mosaic knew this, they'd bury it. Or him. Rachel's hands trembled. She opened her encrypted cloud storage. Hargrave had shared a key with her months ago for a project backup. She found a file labeled Chronos Protocol. Click. Inside was a folder containing detailed notes, formulas, and correspondence. One name caught her attention. Dr. Elias Crane. Elias Crane had once been a celebrated biochemical engineer. Now he lived in obscurity, his apartment cluttered with half-assembled gadgets and bitter manuscripts about academic betrayal. Rachel knocked on his door. He answered with a suspicious squint. "Who are you?" "Rachel Palmer. I worked with Hargrave. He's dead." Crane blinked. "Dead?" "Murdered." He opened the door wider. "You'd better come in." They sat amidst paper stacks and the smell of old coffee. Rachel slid a tablet across to him. "This was part of Hargrave's final project. Your name is all over it." Crane studied the data. This was our joint work years ago, before they ruined me." "Hargrave kept going?" "He perfected it." Crane looked haunted. "Then they'll come for you too." "Who? Mosaic?" Crane shook his head. "Mosaic was only the shell. The real control lies with the Aegis Consortium. They specialize in silencing breakthroughs that threaten global profit chains. They're backed by defense, pharmaceuticals, and energy syndicates." Rachel stared at him. "How do we stop them?" Crane leaned forward. "By finishing what we started. But we can't do it alone." Rachel, Crane, and Evelyn worked day and night, refining the formula and securing evidence. Every device they used was disconnected from the grid. Cameras were disabled, cell phones destroyed. They called their effort the Phoenix Directive. Their plan: release the formula as open-source data to every environmental agency, university, and scientific journal across the globe simultaneously. No one entity could suppress it if everyone had it, but they had to act fast. She awoke to the sound of glass shattering. Evelyn burst in, panicked. "They're here!" Rachel grabbed the encrypted hard drive and the Phoenix Directive backup. Van waited outside. Crane hotwired it hours ago in case they needed an emergency exit. As they drove off, Rachel glanced back. Her apartment was engulfed in flames. "They don't want this to get out," she whispered. Crane grimaced. "We've crossed the line now. There's no turning back." Rachel's jaw set. "Good. I'm done hiding." Disguised as attendees, they infiltrated the summit. Evelyn carried a disguised flash drive hidden in a pen. Crane handed out copies of a mysterious white paper to key scientists. Rachel took the stage for a last-minute lightning talk, pretending to be a visiting researcher from Stanford. Her speech appeared ordinary, but hidden in her slides was a QR code linking to the entire Phoenix Directive. Security was noticed too late. Within minutes, servers in over 30 countries pinged with the download. The formula was free. Hargrave's death was never officially solved. Mosaic Fertilizers released a carefully worded statement mourning his loss. Within a month, environmental groups began field testing the new chelation technique. Results confirmed its efficacy. The press called it Hargrave's legacy. Aegis Consortium fell under investigation. Rachel, Evelyn, and Crane disappeared from the public eye. But their message remained. Truth is like the tide. You can try to stop it, but eventually it will rise. And in the quiet corners of the scientific world, where passion burns hotter than politics, whispers of the Phoenix Directive continued to inspire a new generation. The early dawn crept silently over Cambridge, casting long shadows through Rachel's apartment. She sat alone, the weight of the past weeks pressing heavily on her shoulders. Outside, the city was waking, unaware of the quiet war waged in labs, boardrooms, and shadowed alleys. Rachel's phone buzzed. A message from Evelyn. "We've got movement near Crane's safe house. Possible tail." Her heart quickened. They had managed to stay hidden, but the walls were closing in. In the narrow streets of Berlin, under thick, gray skies, Rachel, Evelyn, and Crane moved with practiced caution. Their underground lab was compromised. Someone inside had betrayed them. It was no longer just about protecting the formula. It was about survival. Crane's sharp eyes scanned every passerby. "They've sent more than hired guns this time." Aegis is deploying their operatives, ex-military, tech mercenaries. Evelyn swallowed hard. We need to get the data somewhere safe. The cloud isn't an option anymore. Rachel nodded. We'll need a physical backup, encrypted, untraceable, and we'll have to split up. But trust was a fragile thing. Late that evening, as they prepared to leave the safe house, Rachel noticed Evelyn whispering urgently into her phone. "Who are you calling?" Rachel asked, suspicion tightening her voice. Evelyn hesitated. I'm just trying to confirm our extraction point." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "I don't think you're telling me everything." The truth spilled out in trembling words. Evelyn had been coerced. Threats against her family forced her to cooperate with Aegis. But in the end, her loyalty remained with Rachel. "I'm sorry," Evelyn whispered, tears streaming. "I'll make it right." Rachel pulled her into a fierce embrace. "We need you. We all do." With Evelyn's intel, they crafted a last desperate plan. Rachel would infiltrate the international Aegis headquarters in Zurich during a high-profile conference, uploading the final, irrefutable proof of Mosaic and Aegis's crimes, documents, data, and the perfected collation formula itself, to a global network of journalists and watchdog groups. Crane and Evelyn would create diversions, hacking into communication grids and triggering controlled chaos within Aegis's infrastructure. Disguised as conference staff, Rachel navigated the steel and glass labyrinth of the Aegis Tower. Each step echoed, every security checkpoint a gauntlet. Her palms sweated as she accessed the secure server room, heart pounding. She connected the flash drive. The upload began. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Time's up!" A voice crackled over the intercom. Crane and Evelyn's cyber assault crippled the building's security systems, but Aegis operatives swarmed in from all directions. Rachel was trapped. Gunfire echoed, glass shattered. In the chaos, Rachel's focus narrowed. She couldn't fail. The upload reached 95%. A shadow loomed. A figure lunged. Rachel dodged, knocking the attacker aside, but pain blossomed in her side. A bullet grazed her ribs. Cornered in a security corridor, Rachel faced a familiar face. The silver-haired man from the boardroom, the mastermind behind the conspiracy, Victor Reinhardt. "Impressive," he said, voice cold, "but futile." Rachel's breath hitched, but she stood firm. "Your greed ends here." He smirked. "This is just the beginning. You're naive to think you can stop progress." "You're killing the planet to make a profit," Rachel spat. Reinhardt stepped forward, but then hesitated. Behind him, a screen flickered. The upload completed. Evidence streamed live to millions. Pandemonium erupted. News outlets broke the story globally. Financial fraud, environmental sabotage, even corporate assassinations tied to Aegis and Mosaic. Protests ignited worldwide. Governments launched investigations. Victor Reinhardt's empire began to crumble. Rachel, battered but unbroken, recovered in a safe house. Evelyn and Crane by her side, she watched the dawn from a cracked window. "We did it," Evelyn whispered. Crane smiled grimly. "The battle is won, but the war continues." Rachel nodded, her gaze steely. "The Phoenix Directive will keep rising. We've lit a fire they can't extinguish." Months later, Rachel stood in a lecture hall, addressing a crowd of young scientists. "Science is our greatest weapon against ignorance and greed," she said, "but it must be wielded with courage and integrity." Her phone vibrated. A message. From an unknown sender. "The tide is rising, they're coming for you." Rachel smiled. Let them come. Because now she was ready.